Locutors, a Trek. On screen.
Hello and welcome
Hello.
to Locutors of Trek Trekle Trunk, where
Indeed.
tonight we will be reaching into the trunk and pulling out IDW's Star Trek number 5 from this very year, 2023. Star Trek Defiant number 1 from this very year as well, and Deep Space Nine, the Dog of War. Whoops, that should also say number 1 because it's the number 1 issue of that as well.
Of course.
Let me fix that right now. So we're all by the numbers here. And of course, we'll be reviewing these. Spoiler review.
That's how I paint.
So, yeah, exactly. And we are your hosts, Davan and
Indeed.
Jaemeel.
Your locutors of Trek and plain simple Tailors, indeed.
That's us.
Well, it's nice to see you all again, whoever you are out there.
It is. It's been a while. We have our season finale in the can, and one day I will finish editing it. But
indeed,
thanks to my technical difficulties of the day, and
we are in fact through our many interactions with Murphy and his law enforcement agency, becoming expert in technical difficulties of all kinds. But per aspera ad astra is the Starfleet.
Per aspera.
Well, I turned it upside down, but you know what I mean. I was emphasizing
to the stars through
syllable.
hardship. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. Well, like I said, let's start with we'll start with Star Trek number 5, shall we?
Sure. We've been following this series for a little while now, and seeing the developing quadrant and galactic level sort of catastrophe unfolding.
Yeah, and to recap, Sisko's back. He's been sent back by the prophets as an assassin of some sort to take out whoever's going after and murdering all the godlike entities. And we did see the obliteration of, as far as we know, all the crystalline entities. And the Q were very worried as well. And then they go to this place called Sarakash, where fancy weapons are made and have been made for some time. An interesting
sort of craftsman
we've heard of before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now we've learned just in the last end of issue 4, I think, what's most pertinent to this issue, that in fact, the person who's at the head of all this is...
There he is.
Kahless, the Unforgettable.
Kahless, the Unforgettable.
Or at least his clone. Mostly unforgettable.
Kahless, what do they call him? Kahless. They should call him K-Lesser.
Exactly. They totally should call him K-Lesser. Well, and I think, and well put, because that in very many respects animates, I think, this villain. Before we even get launched, I think he's both wishing to live up to the impulses of his original lifetime, because he's got a lot of those memories, but he's also recognized that he exists in this quasi-Kahless, this K-Lesser state in Klingon culture. And so he wants to do something which would be the next step on from what Kahless the Unforgettable. He's sort of like a living "what would Kahless do" bumper sticker, which is kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah. So he's gonna have this like Klingon equivalent of short man syndrome, as they say. He's gonna always feel like a bit lesser, you know.
Yes, precisely.
We should say,
he says, sitting up higher in his chair.
Yes, exactly. Written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, with art by Ramon Rosanas, and I really do like the art in this book. There we go.
The art is beautiful. Nice
really
panel layouts.
well. Yeah.
You see the tension even in the angles of the lines there. It's wonderfully laid out.
Mm. Yep. So, and we have his, he has his ragtag crew here of Data, Tom Paris,
Mm-hmm.
some Andorian we don't know, Scotty, who designed their ship, the Theseus, the most advanced in Starfleet that they
Mm-hmm.
find themselves upon. But yeah, they're being fired upon by Kalis.
With this
Kalis is
brilliant, what is
here.
it, solar voltaic thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Kalis there. Yep.
Yeah, there he is, Kalis on his ship there. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a bit of a firefight going on, and they're also boarded. They've been boarded. And
Yep.
Worf's like,
In fact, their
let me.
shields are brought down fairly quickly. They even suggest running from the fight early
Yep.
on, which is not an illogical tactic, but Sisko decides against it.
Yep. And so they Sisko has to leave the bridge to take the fight to the enemy. And Sisko's like, yeah, go right ahead. And look who we find fighting for the enemy on the boarding party. But Alexander Groshenko himself.
I
And
love
this is why he's
the
not
other
in
side page there. I love the other side
Yeah.
page where they give his educational
I-
history and his work history.
When he was, but just when he was a kid, right? Like, aren't these grades just?
Yeah, he kind of
This is his
disappears from
primary-
Federation records after a while.
That's his primary school report from
Yeah.
TNG.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
It does.
I really love the way they're intersplicing documentary stuff in this series. Is that a staple of Star Trek series to date, or is that new in this?
To add these little kind of extra bits.
Yeah.
Well, it's not uncommon in Star Trek, but they're definitely making a point of it in this series.
They seem to be making significant use of it here. That really twigged me
There's
as
another one later.
a part of the style, right? It's a great way to give you some exposition without forcing it into the plot. In terms of characters having to say it.
Young Alexander got an A- in writing and critical reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
A- in physical science is
He's very
not bad, but C- in humanistic inquiry.
He has his father's gift for introspection, I see.
And the C+ in logic and language.
Oh, definitely takes after his father there.
Is his father's son?
Because had he had more time with his mother, I think that humanistic injury could have been beautifully fostered. But we see such a crazy story of trauma in Alexander Groshenko, and he spells it out there, right? Like, I lost my mom, I lost my society, I lost my honor, I lost my sense of myself as a Klingon. He's just everywhere he turns. There's nowhere to put his head, or to hang his hat.
And at first, I kind of thought maybe this was an odd turn for Alexander, considering where we left him at the end of Deep Space Nine, where they seem to have patched things up. But if Worf, and I believe he would have, based on the Worf that we're seeing in this comic, and even in the one that we saw in Picard, he became very business focused. Like, he seems to go like very underground and doing secret missions and super involved.
He loves duty.
He does love duty, so I think
duty is his way to feel most alive, I think. And so those challenge areas for him are what brings him into pain.
Oh yeah. So I thought, given that, he might have just gone back to completely ignoring Alexander again and ignored him for this whole time again. And if that is the case, Alexander would have taken that very badly.
Especially if there's a disagreement between he and Alexander. Right? And Alexander consistently challenges who his father is and who his father thinks he is. And I can see Worf taking that badly quite easily.
Yeah, and
or not responding to that with adequate empathy.
And, Alexander says to Worf, he's like, "What will it be, Father? Are you a killer or a coward?" And then Worf tries to explain to him that is, Kahless is a charlatan. He says, and then Alexander calls him a heretic. Doesn't much care for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the Emperor is the light that he had been missing in his life, that he never got, from Worf and Worf's family he didn't have. And he says the path we walk is red. And,
and this is the name, the Red Path, right?
And
they're walking
and
a path of blood.
Especially this Kahless the second, is totally the kind of guy who would use Alexander against Worf in this manner. Like he might have targeted
absolutely
Alexander for this very purpose. It might not. Alexander might be being played hard here.
Well, I mean, you got to imagine Worf's reputation in the Klingon Empire at this point. He's been involved in. He's an ambassador, but he's also been involved in the accession of the last three, or at least the succession of including three prior chancellors, right? Because he was involved in the death of Kempek, the death of Duras, and the accession of Gowron. And then he was involved with working with Gowron, killed Gowron, and then involved in the accession of Martok, right? Like he's been for this dishonored Patach at the beginning of the story.
And taker of kings.
Right? He's a literal kingmaker in Klingon history at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if there could be a more powerful wanderer, loner hero after Kahless. So no wonder Kahless would also pick the son of that potent arrival. I'm thinking back to that wonderful issue they did with the original Kahless on the bridge.
Well,
where he just
one behind me here, right there above my head.
Right, it's so good, and it's just absolutely brilliantly the story as Worf once narrates it, at least I think during Deep Space Nine.
That's Kahless the Moorer, not the lesser.
Right, but like that I think, for better and for worse, is who Worf aspires to be. And we saw that in the TNG episodes where he has to reconcile himself to this odd ersatz Kahless. And we saw it through the whole series that way of Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. And here it's brought to a very satisfying kind of head, for sure. I can see him absolutely deploying Alexander for this purpose.
Oh, absolutely. And they do mention that Chancellor Martok doesn't really believe any of this is happening. He's just kind of ignoring it all.
Yes, which would be when Martok gets his crestfallen, he's prone to this, right? He's prone to look inward.
He could be.
That's what they had to bring him out of.
Whole political situation. Like he wouldn't deal well with all this politics for very long.
Well, it's clear he's been chancellor for 4 or 5 years now. And Kahless is just kind of running roughshod over Klingon sentiments. So he's really Martok is not
was ever supposed to.
Martok's in clearly a very weak political position, I would think, at this point.
Seems so. So then
I wonder if he might not become another villain in another arc.
Well, that would be interesting. Then we have,
or at least an adversary to Worf. Yeah,
communing with the prophets. Not to be confused with Ferengi prophets, which can be handsome.
He deposits no strips or bars. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of art there.
They want him to destroy Kahless. That's why they sent him back in the first place. And now
they make that very clear on that page. Yeah.
And he orders Worf to do it. And Worf's just like, nah, not going to do it. He's just like, what?
Yeah.
You always want to fire torpedoes. What are you talking about? Like, sometimes you just say firing torpedoes.
You have
people
one
go,
job, man.
Stop. I know. And he just says, well, he comes right in and he pushes, puts a stop to it. He pushes it. And he's like, no. And the weirdest part is he calls him Benjamin. He never calls him Benjamin.
That's a very interesting moment, isn't it? Can you read the dialogue in around there for just a second?
Yeah, I definitely can. He's just, what are you doing, Benjamin? He said, Commander Worf has a direct order. He says, based on limited information from untrustworthy sources. And he says to him, you are one of the greatest officers in Starfleet history, and yet you have let yourself be turned into an assassin by alien beings you barely understand. He's like, you do not understand the chaos you would unleash with that one single shot. It would be war again. And he's just like, in a war with a religious ferocity you don't understand. It would paint the stars with blood, he says.
Martok would be unable to hold that back. And nor would he be likely to either, right? You don't go killing his fake emperor.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
He wants to do that.
Right? He might like to do that at some point in a way that would deny him Sto-vo-kor. But, no way the Federation's going to get away with that.
But then he also says, and he kind of softens, and he says, and my son Alexander is among Kahless's followers, sir. I would be killing my son. But Sisko, one of the hardest Sisko moments ever. Then you are relieved. Get the hell off my bridge.
I mean, that is as hard or harder than what is that planet? In the demilitarized zone that they shoot the torpedoes at. You know?
I said
when he decides to be Javert.
Exactly. And Worf just says gladly. But does Sisko's response there not almost prove everything Worf was just saying about him? That he's just blinded by this quest sent to him by these aliens he doesn't understand. But Sisko does tend to usually be right about these things. There's also,
but he's been back for also a total of about 5 weeks at this point, maybe at most, and he's already seen the crystal entities get blown away. This crafts people race, I forget what they were. They
Sakarans,
that's right.
What was it? Anyway, yeah.
He's seen them get wiped out. That's right. Sakarans are a whole different franchise. Yeah. Anyway, also a great spot. Good fun. But yeah, right now he's seen 2 venerable ancient sets of creatures get wiped out. And the things that have brought him back to this universe, to this galaxy, to this place where he's with his son after a space of only 3 years. As opposed to what any of us might imagine after all this time, on a screen somewhere. He's got this chance, and I feel the stakes for him are extraordinarily high, both personally and in terms of his allegiance to these beings. He's already thrown himself into fire for them once.
Yep, and it should be said Jake is here. So there's always that added element. Jake is
he's risking his son currently.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is that's something that he's like, oh, you live with that, buddy.
Which he has done at this before, point, when he let the prophets inhabit his son to fight the power wraith.
Well, even just having him on Deep Space Nine, during the war, is a terrible risk. He could have sent him back to Earth entirely, but. Jake was right.
They chime in again, and they just say, "Time has eluded the Sisko. You must fire. You will fire. You have fired." Which they would say it that way. So there is only one future. You must kill the heretic. They say.
Yeah.
So,
But does
And then, brace for impact. So then Sisko wants to beam down to protect this entity
Yes,
of
because
fire.
they
Instead of
pierced
fire.
this sort of layers surrounding it, right?
Yeah, a creature
From what I
similar
could
to, but
tell.
I don't think the same as the creature from Farpoint.
It seems like it by the end of the issue, yeah.
Different color, a little different design, but similar in size, and the fact that it can almost be disguised as like a station.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe it is the same kind of thing. Interesting. But
Yeah.
Jake,
Well, it
he's
certainly
down
was
there
reminiscent right away.
he thinks he's down there by himself, but all of a sudden Jake and Dr. Crusher show up. And Jake says something I think very significant here. He's like, Jake, you shouldn't be here. Get out of here now, both of you. And he's just like, I'm sorry, Dad. I just didn't want you to be alone again. Which Jake there is talking about all this 4 years that Sisko was in the Celestial Temple, but we know as the viewer that is also a reference to The Visitor, where he had to spend all this like even longer time alone, where he's just trapped in like subspace.
Yes.
So it's kind of that one. He said that I was just like, ooh, this is a good issue, I will say.
Yeah. It's got a lot of great references that way.
Maybe the strongest of the 5 so far for me.
It's got really good characterization moments. I would agree with you that way. The fight between Sisko and Worf when Jake shows up, absolutely. Yeah, and there's someone else down there too, isn't there?
No.
Oh, just the 3 of them, eh?
Just Crusher, yeah. Everyone else like Data, and they're all back on the ship.
Oh yeah, they've all gone back up. That's right. Okay.
Well, they never went down. So Data's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different issue. I apologize.
The fact that this entity, just by being there, has been kind of warping reality in space time. And he's like, well, what do you think's going to happen when it awakes in unimaginable pain? And so that's a good point that Data's making there. So it's not a good situation.
No.
And then Jake gets knocked out. And there's Data contemplating. Data, always a good first.
Because they fire again on the creature again, don't they?
And then we have Emperor Kahless. Yes, indeed. He says, "Fools, to try to protect a being with such power. Engineering, take us home." They think they've done their job, but Sisko actually did save the entity. But then Sisko's mad at the prophets because he's worried Jake again has been like perhaps even killed or very much harmed. He's just like, he's like, my son, you can take anything from me, but I won't let you take my son. He's yelling to his mother, who's one of the prophets. He's like, do you hear me, mother? Like, does anyone hear me? He's mad. Even the prophets.
Yeah, but they only answer when they feel like,
person. Yeah, I wouldn't want to piss Sisko off, even if I wasn't.
Nope, even if I was one of the prophets.
No. And then the creature does awake and just says, pain.
Which is a wonderful, like, full circle again to Deanna Troy's lines in Farpoint. Pain. Great pain.
It's so similar. It has to be an intentional callback, but it says you bring.
I think so. Even if it's not the same type of creature, it seems like a similar order of creature. Yeah.
I see into the soul of you. I read your vast library. I see your home. You bring pain to my place of rest, so there is only one penance. I will consume yours.
So this creature presumably is off toward Earth then, because Theseus is the only ship around when it wakes up.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, do you think
a little bit of mistaken identity here?
Like, was that Kahless's plan, or is this just an accident?
I think it was Kahless's plan, which is a really long game kind of clever plan. But this is Kahless. I mean, Kahless, the lesser or not, he is clever. Like the stuff he did in that issue we read that kind of tricked all of those kind of lords.
Oh yeah.
He played them against.
He's a brilliant strategist,
What do you
right?
think?
And if he's got, it's interesting, right? Because when I first read that panel, I thought, okay, he thinks he's killed him, he's made his mistake. But then when it woke up and did exactly what Data said it was going to do, I thought, this could be either one of two things. It's either a happy accident for Kahless, or it's what he was hoping to achieve. Either way, he's not sad if it heads for Earth, you know?
So, as we ask ourselves on this show, and it's kind of an ongoing thing, because it's reading an ongoing story here, but are you sliding this into the old headcanon?
Oh, now this issue right here could be pulled right out of the rest of the whole run so far. And, depending on the characters on the ship or not, whatever, it's fine. This could be a great episode of Deep Space Nine. This could be a great episode of Pick Up Anywhere.
Where Kahless just loses his mind and tries
exactly. It's just like, I'm doing it. Right? This would be a great two-parter.
This story won me over. Like at first I was just like, I was kind of with you. I was a little more forgiving, but I didn't need another like, all right, let's go kill the gods thing, because it's just a played out story. But but it makes sense for the Klingons to do that. So I was just like, they really brought it home with that. That's for sure. Like, yes, of course they would. They did it to their own ones.
Right, like this is like right, like it's a no-brainer to Kahless. It's like, yes, I will just go kill some other things. They'll think I'm doing the same thing, and then kabam, I take the Federation out at the heart.
So So it does slide into the headcanon, even just as
I would love to slide this in as an episode. I would love to see this on screen, for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The issue I think is getting better than the previous one, and
I'm really enjoying the art, even when I'm a little bit more here or there on the story. The art in this stuff is really delighting me.
And there's been some really nice punctuated moments too. Like in the previous issue, there's that nice moment between Sisko and Dr. Crusher. They had that big talk. And, like, there's been some good stuff.
Oh yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah.
But yeah, this Worf with the scene with him and Worf, probably my favorite scene of the series so far. That was some
good catch on the Benjamin Mr. Worf part, right?
Because that's what Jadzia would have called him.
Yeah.
So he was channeling.
Oh my gosh. I hadn't even thought about that. Good catch. He was
speaking for Jadzia. He's like, even Jadzia would think you're being crazy. And she would have told him. She was,
and he just rebuffs it, Commander Worf. Boom.
Oh, he should almost do more of the Jadzia stuff at him. He'd be like, Jadzia.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that, but no wonder he shuts him down so hard, eh?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
So that brings us to the Defiant One himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at these alternating covers I got. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
So for Star Trek #1, I got this cover. Because there's like 5 covers you can choose from for each of these issues.
Oh, really?
This one.
Nice.
But look at the Star Trek
I like
Defiant
that
one I got.
This was done on purpose. No kidding.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'll be putting those on the wall next to each other just because that's pretty sick.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so here we are. Worf stole the Defiant.
In grand Starfleet tradition of just stealing starships.
Your favorite ship. No, stealing your favorite ship.
That's true. Stealing your favorite ship. That's true.
No one just goes and steals like an old friggin' Excelsior class that's sitting around.
Although that would make a great Lower Decks episode.
Oh
gosh, I'd take a Constitution class if they give her to me. Come on, even one of those crazy ones. What is that? The Uh,
tickled pink with a Miranda.
Lagrange class, which is the one thing coming off the bottom, or Archer class, or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Was that an Archer class? Oh.
I think they called it that in an episode of Strange New Worlds, but it did have a different name before that.
Interesting.
I think they were designated as like satellite repair ships and all sorts of stuff.
So here we have Star Trek Defiant number. Oh, what else is blown out of the Trekle trunk? That's amazing. It is.
Who's this?
Mr. Splat.
Mr. Splat. So
Mr.
good.
Splat, the Starfleet pterodactyl.
Oh, man. Hi, Mr. Splat.
Why do they call you Mr. Splat?
Why do they call him Mr. Splat?
Oh, too soon? Anyway, we'll talk to Mr. Splat later, maybe. So we have Captain Worf. He's calling himself Captain of the Defiant, even though he stole it. So whatever.
But of course, the person in command of a ship can reasonably call themselves a captain, independent of their rank.
True enough.
At least we've seen that happen, because certainly Picard was captain of the. You know what we're talking about.
Look who enters Worf's bridge.
Indeed, that was a twist for me.
Yeah, Mr. Spock himself, Ambassador Spock. But this is interesting because they're colleagues. They're both ambassadors at this point. So, like they're peers.
Who knows how much time they've spent together?
Even that, I don't think much, because Spock still seems to be doing his whole unification with Romulans thing. That seems to consume.
Yeah, he still seems to be relatively low on the radar. That's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, they've found a planet that seems to have been consumed by something like a crystalline entity.
Oh, that's right.
It's the thing we just talked about in here. That creature,
which is, and we forgot to mention.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention that the whole weapon is powered by. Well, maybe we shouldn't drop this further, but it's powered by something we've grown to know and love in a very different capacity. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, so they found this planet.
Yeah. And so they're talking. Worf and his first officer, Mr. Spock, is how they're addressing each other as command here, which is interesting. Good job. You get Spock as your first officer, Worf. Like, good job.
Oh, I mean, come on, that's pretty great.
But Spock likes a rogue mission, to save the day. He's a bit of a cowboy, diplomacy type fella. It's
fun, as much as he declaims against it, huh? He does like a bit of cowboy diplomacy.
He's just like, thanks, Mr. Spock, for all your help. And she's like, gratitude is not necessary. You command the Defiant. The computer and I serve at your behest. Oh, yeah, because he smashed his computer. That's when Spock came in.
Oh, that's right. He gets mad and he smashes up his...
Yeah, he's like, why did you destroy your computer? He's like, I was having trouble accessing the captain's log system. He's just like,
that's right.
It's like, but Captain, in the absence of proper authorization, destruction of a locked computer terminal is never likely to grant the user access. He's like, yes, but it does allow me to punish it for not doing so. One of the best Worf lines ever.
It's like, I'm absolutely clear on that, Spock. Wasn't even worried about it.
Yeah. I like their dynamic.
There's a lot of comedy between these two.
There is.
I'm surprised. This was delightful to see, honestly. I'm not necessarily always a fan of just like shoving characters in here and there just to shove them in.
Yeah.
But
and these comics do that.
There's a lot of fan service in here for sure. But this was a really fortuitous pairing, eh?
Yeah.
Like they really play off each other in not quite a Kirk and Spock way, but a way that has shades of that while subverting it because he's always going to answer as a Klingon. And I really like that about their dynamic.
Me too. Oh, and I should say this is Star Trek Defiant #1, written by Christopher Cantwell, with art by Angel Unzwaita. Art's really good in this one too. I mean, like, look at this nice side profile of Worf here. Very, very good.
Yeah.
And there's some sweet Defiant shots too. Like the Defiant's pretty sexy in this.
And they capture some of Worf's characteristic expressions really beautifully in a few panels.
Yeah, so then Worf's kind of it's a bit of a inner monologue with him kind of going over what, basically tying it into this issue here. He says he left on a shuttle. They tried to stop him, but he energized and landed on a planet, but it turned out to energized down to a planet, but it turned out to be a Romulan planet. Of course, Romulans. Look at it. The funny thing is, like, he beams off his ship that's crashing, and it, like, basically he's gonna land on him.
Yes, I like that. It's like, well, dang.
Yeah. And then some Romulans, of course, do show up, and they're gonna be pretty quick on their trigger with the Klingon, of course. But look who we have here, saving the day on Chowtalk 4. That's where they. Yeah, I love this shot too here. That's a really nice page.
I'm there with
he's like, oh, Ambassador Worf, I see that you are once again subjecting yourself to the thrills and adventures promised by Starfleet.
Oh man, Spock's sense of humor never gets old.
No, it only gets better. Like he just same with Worf.
He's like a master of sarcasm.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
And they just sit down and have another talk over glasses of something. They're having some.
They debate some of the points of his objection and his requirements.
Yep, and how he's still committed to reunification. Yeah, and he says, but Spock says he doesn't believe Starfleet ever revoked his command codes. So he's helping Worf out with one of his problems.
Yeah.
And this is where he says he's recruited far more than just a brilliant and wise first officer. And then we get to see one of his other crew members, a favorite character of mine, of course.
B'Elanna Torres.
I do love me some B'Elanna Torres. And we get a nice little marital spat between Tom and B'Elanna. Those are always just
nice placing them on opposite ships. Yeah. Now, Defiant is really profiting from the fan service present in Star Trek right now.
Oh, sure.
Because they get to bring out all the tensions, right? Which is quite lovely.
So, yeah, she's like, you can't have all the fun. You're off on, because he's on Sisko's crew, Tom. So you get to have all the fun. And she's like, yeah, but what? He's going rogue. And she's like, yeah, well, like, Starfleet still thinks I'm a traitor anyway. He's like, I'd never marry a traitor. she's just like, that's not funny. Like,
man.
But he's got himself a great first officer, a fantastic engineer. He's got himself a good crew here. I like Sisko's crew, but this crew is something special.
Oh, now this is a real crew of misfits. That's for sure.
Oh, well, yes, because look where him and B'Elanna, Worf comes and finds B'Elanna, and look who they have in their brig.
Yes. Look at that,
indeed.
eh?
The oft disgraced Rolaren.
Now, this is a character who I have wanted to see again since she stepped off a Star Trek screen. I really love the character of Rolaren. She's a great foil to the whole Starfleet ideal, even though she's enthralled by it at some level. She's a great character. And I'm glad that they found some way to bring her back around. Although it's going to be a trick seeing how she's going to fit in. That's for sure.
Well, she's even like, why am I here, and why do you think I'll work for you? And she's just like, tell Picard I'm not interested in any of his shit or whatever, and he's just like, "No, I'm the captain now."
Yeah, no Picard here, thank you.
Yeah, but he needs to deal with the Orions, basically. So he needs to deal with criminals, and he needs somebody who the criminals will believe actually stole the Defiant. Like if Worf just shows up, they'll be like, "Nah, you're working for Starfleet. Get out of here." But Ro,
Yes,
they might just get the information they need. So, and that's what he says, and she's like, "Yeah, but fine, but still not going to help you. I still don't care." Like, and he's just like, "Yeah, but maybe I can help you out if this all goes well," kind of thing. And interesting that Kalis' ship is called the Kuvokales, spelled like this. If you can see it on the
it's
page there.
QUV,
I
right?
don't know.
Vocales,
QUV
Vocales.
vo apostrophe Kales, making vocales a single word, which is where I find it interesting. So Kuv is Klingon for honor. Vo is Klingon for voice. So it's honor. The ship is called Honor, and whereas it's an apostrophe, it's like Kales's voice, I would assume, because the ship is called
I would think
Ku
so, yeah. Honor the
Vocales.
voice of Kales.
Honor the
Or
voice of
something like
Kales.
that, yeah.
Something like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
I mean it's appropriately grandiose, that's for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan there. Then we got a nice shot of Ro there taking her station. So now he's got his helmsman. Oh, this is a ragtag crew and a wonderful one.
Oh man, misfits in every respect.
So then he consults this operative he has on Konos. This young Klingon woman. I don't think we know her from anything. Her name is
I don't
Tanop.
think so.
But she's
Unless
interesting
I mean the only place I could think she could have showed up was in that episode where he crashed on the planet of captive Klingons. But I don't remember that name at all from that episode.
I was thinking that too. I was just rereading this issue before we started, and I'm like, is she from the planet? But I don't know.
I think this is just a new character.
I do too. He's been on Kronos being an ambassador for a long time, for the first time in his life. So he's probably actually
Yeah, he's
figured
been
out
there
who
for a
actually
few
likes
years
him on
anyway,
the
right?
planet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then Sisko's like, well, you could like tell Sisko, or Spock, I should say, is like, he tells Worf he could like tell Sisko what's going on. He's just like, no, I can't actually. So they're both doing their own thing. Sisko's trying to go for the mission, his mission of stopping this thing. They're both going for Kales in their own way, but
yes,
so they keep kind of
Worf's
coming
interests are
up in
more
the same area.
complicated here.
But then they say they
temporally.
need to yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to have a bit of more of a scalpel instead of a knife. Worf does.
Yes.
Which is so strange. That would normally be Sisko, and Worf would be the hammer. It's an interesting
it's a really interesting
dichotomy.
juxtaposition, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is good stuff too. I'm telling you, this whole story, like these two series are tied together entirely, pretty much. And
I'm interested to see them come to a head.
so then Worf
because they've
says they have
started this one, relatively far into.
Funny you should say this comes to a head. Because Worf says he has to consult science.
Indeed.
And they walk into a cargo bay, and Spock flicks on the light. And what do we have? Lore.
Oh my
Lore is the
God.
science officer. Lore's head.
They stole his head.
And he says,
along with the Defiant.
Where is this? Where's Data? Where is Captain Picard? Oh no, this is where he says, I am the captain now.
Oh yeah.
And there's the cover for the next issue. Look at that.
Oh, with Lore aboard, who knows what happens if he grabs control of the Defiant, though, right?
So yeah.
Ooh.
Jesus, not a weapon you want him to have, that's for sure.
No, he looks pretty tapped into it too.
Certainly tune into the next Trekle Trunk to see where this series is going. And very soon there's one issue of Defiant, I believe, that we can read before it begins the countdown to the Day of Blood.
Oh. The red
which ties
paths
these
day
two
of
series
blood.
together, and then eventually there
Yeah.
will, one would assume, be a Day of Blood.
Crossover event, even.
But interesting. I even have a Star Trek annual, which is also a part of the countdown to the Day of Blood. So we'll be checking that out.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's lots going on with that. But we'll
Yeah.
perhaps on a lighter note end
Oh,
our
yeah.
show this evening with the best cover ever, I gotta say.
Oh, what a
for one
great
thing.
cover. Yeah.
The fold out. Look at that. Ritos.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
They're going to do another annual baseball game. My suspicion is Deep Space Nine beats the Cerritos. What do you say?
In baseball? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean,
Maybe they brought them in
they're
as ringers against the Vulcans.
wouldn't that be something?
They still
I mean,
lose horribly.
Rutherford has that artificial
Oh,
eye.
that's true.
He
might be their
wouldn't
like
strike out, I
Vladdy.
wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, man.
They even have one of the logicians here. See, there's the guy from the Vulcan from the logicians up in the stands with Quark.
Oh, it's a great cover.
Oh, but he's winning.
So,
Quark's giving him money.
That's true.
Oh,
So we're on Deep Space Nine during
it's the Dog of War. So we are now
early
on Deep Space
part
Nine.
of the sort of early mid part of the Dominion War, it looks like.
Yeah. I think it will become apparent by going through it here when exactly that. Oh, it's shortly after the Romulans joined the fight. So it's like shortly after in the pale moonlight.
Right.
So kind of late war.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, sort of
war.
The beginning of the end, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Deep Space Nine, Dog of War #1, written by Mike Chen with art by Angel Hernandez. 2 angels. The last one was Angel Unzueta. This one, Angel Hernandez. They're the angels of Star Trek art.
Angels everywhere.
I mean, there's some good art in this one. Like, look at these fine detailed shots of the station here. Really nice.
Beautiful on that star field.
It's funny. These are all they're somewhat different art styles from these 3 artists, but they're all distinctly in what can be called kind of the Star Trek art style. And I like that. Like, they're kind of reminiscent of old Star Trek issues too. And that, so like Marvel sort of has a style, and DC sort of has a style. Star Trek comics kind of have a style. So here we are. We're on the station, and there seems to be they're getting a warning that there's a Borg device on the station.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they must go investigate this. Like, look at this art of Sisko. Tell me that doesn't look exactly like Sisko's face. Like, that's
a great picture. Yeah. He's not happy about this at all. Borg stuff, as we all know, sets him off quite directly.
And the signal is coming from one of Quark's holosuites. Holosuite 4. So he goes down to Quark's. Quark's there chilling with Morn. Tells him to open Holosuite 4. He's like, oh, I can't.
They're obviously been talking for a while. Morn's quite a chatter.
Oh, jeez. You can tell Quark looks annoyed too.
Yeah. He's trying to wrap the story up, it sounds like, from his perspective.
Well, they're talking about this. Quark's complaining about this Human's best friend thing. It's very messy.
He's stuck with it.
Happy about it. Yep, not too happy about that at all. So then they go up to Holosuite 4, and what do we have? Vic Fontaine, the great Vic Fontaine himself, and a bunch of
Vic Fontaine, Corgi Park.
Yep, pretty much. So, yeah, Vic ends up opening up a dog park in this episode in the Holosuite.
Which is like, it's a very silly moment, but I could see Vic having a soft spot for dogs.
They're good too. I mean, it's very human. He's a very human character.
Yeah. I'll bet a dog would love the Holosuite. He'd just need regular cleanup in there.
You could make an endless dog park in a Holosuite.
Yes. Exactly.
Get Feller going on one of those holographic treadmills or however they do it. And and he's talking. Captain Sisko's talking with Captain Pearl. He's working with Captain Pearl of another ship.
Mm-hmm.
She's there to like get a bunch of the tech to take it back to analyze it for the war. And
That's
she wants
right.
this now she's kind of directly tied into Starfleet Command. So she's just like, oh, they're gonna want this
Mm-hmm.
Borg thing. He's just like, yeah, but I'm not giving you the Borg thing.
Yeah, it's
She's
like
just
we
like,
needed to look at
well,
it here before we know
Starfleet's
whether it's
gonna
safe to
want the
send
Borg thing.
anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Cisco always has his reasons, but so then they discover this dog, and
Indeed.
Quark explains that he's incredibly valuable because he's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And there's a
'cause
collector that wants to pick him up.
he's a pure breed, and he doesn't know who the buyer is. He says, but he's valuable merchandise. But he's like, yeah. So then they have the Borg technology as well. Like the Borg technology was attached to the dog, right? Yeah, it was on his collar.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's
he came with
designed
it.
to like, yeah, he came with it, and he
And it's
says,
some sort of neural interface thing, right? Like
yeah,
it
I'm looking
allows
for
you
that
to sort
now.
of do. Whoops, sorry, I knocked over my camera here, folks. Apologies.
Oh,
Allows you
because
to
they
do sort of
listened to it.
computing at the speed of thought, right?
Yeah, because they tried to listen to it, and it just sounded like a million voices yelling to them all at once because it's Borg
Mm-hmm.
technology. So they couldn't get anywhere on it. But yeah, it's some sort of interface. It seems to be some sort of way for dogs to communicate with Borg. I don't know. They don't really elaborate much on it, but you kind of get some hints.
Well, and it's not just
Um,
Borg tech, right? It's
no, it's
Borg
not. It's
plus a
mixed.
bunch of other things.
Yeah.
So
So
there's
very
some Borg
interesting.
tech involved, but it's been worked over by a number of parties, it looks like,
Yeah.
which makes it a
And then we
very
get
interesting piece of technology.
oh yeah, especially in wartime. And then we have Quark talking to his mysterious buyer in the shadows. So we still don't know anything about the
Mm-hmm.
buyer. And then we have Cisco talking to a good old Admiral Bill Ross. You got Bill Ross there calling in.
Oh, Admiral Ross.
Oh yeah, one of the good ones, kind of.
He does seem it,
He's just
yes.
like, and he's worried about the Borg device. He wants it, and Cisco's just like, yeah, but nah, keep
Well, he
keeping it.
knows Ben Cisco well enough at this point that he's got to play some kind of negotiation with him, right? He knows
Yeah,
Ben's always got something up his sleeve that he's after. And
and
at
he's
this
just
point,
like,
I think as far as I can tell, it's just time. You
yeah.
know,
Well, Ross just
he
tells
just
him,
he needs
luckily,
to sort his thoughts out about this.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's only he looks out the window there and he like sees a Borg cube, kind of reminiscent of how Picard does
Yeah,
that, you know.
very
Um,
much.
but yeah, Ross is like, luckily Starfleet R&D are like super backed up anyway, so like whatever, they're not going to get to it for a while. So you're lucky, Benjamin. Like, really, he's just like,
Yeah.
Cisco. It's like, yeah. So
Well, the
then him
trouble
and
is
Jake.
Cisco's got so much credit racked up at this point
Mhm.
that it's hard to come down on him too hard either.
Well, yeah, he's the man who got the Romulans into the war, like at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
He's got serious cred.
yep. And then him and Jake are going to the dog park to play with the puppies. Good times. Garrick's there,
Mm-hmm.
having a fun time.
Garrick seems to like
Kira's there.
puppies.
Yep. Kira's there as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, Dax is there as well. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh, I can
Oh, and
imagine
Odo, of
Dax and a
course.
pile of puppies
And
being
then
great too.
Odo, of course, is just like,
Oh, this is a
turns into
great
a dog.
scene.
Where he turns into the dog and frolics around.
See, this is the page where this became a headcanon thing for me.
Oh, good.
I'm
Tell me
like,
about it.
that would have been just a beautiful moment on screen of him literally like letting his hair down and just going off to play with this other dog, right? How many
Yeah,
times do we ever see Odo do that in the whole series?
because Kira says he's a good boy, which is funny. Like,
Plus,
there's
corgis are
at
just
least,
silly cute.
yeah, they are. There's like 5 different characters, or maybe it's 4 in this issue that at some point say, "Oh, but he's a good boy." Like everyone's always just like, "Oh, he's a good boy, such a good boy." Like even Cisco says it. He's just like And Ross is just
right.
like, I
Such a
hear there's
good
a
boy.
dog on board. Or it came with a dog. He's just like, oh, he's a good boy. So that's pretty funny. He's a good boy.
He's the goodest boy. It's pretty much true.
Yeah, but it is nice,
Oh
the
man.
Odo frolicking thing. And this again
Oh
feels
yeah.
like it could be an episode of Deep Space Nine. And it was marketed. I saw a advertisement for it in this Star Trek issue we just read that markets it as a lost episode, like a hidden episode of the show.
Really?
So I think
Oh,
we're
that's
supposed to
fun.
read it and treat it as such.
I mean, if
And
there
it's
were scripts hanging around that we never did screen, that would be wonderful to pick up as lost episode type scripts. Oh man. Yeah. No, honestly, the page where Odo was playing as a dog was where it tipped the corner for me. I was like, I'm loving this. It's a fun story. It's got all the right characters in there. It's even got Garrick showing up on screen, which who doesn't love a plain simple Tailor in the original?
The original Tailor.
Tailor. Right? The OG from the 24th century.
Actually, here it is. It happens.
But yeah,
you have a dog on the station taking advice from it. He's like, he's a good boy.
He's a good boy. Oh, speaking of which, I got to get my good boy out on the road any second now, where he's going to leave a Titanic flood on the floor.
We're pretty much.
But this was. What did you think of this? As is this headcanon here for you? Is that material?
Well, then it ends. Sisko puts on the device.
Yes.
That Borg device. So classic.
And
Sisko
then there's a
thing,
da.
Well, then he has this crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, he decides he's going to need to know if it's safe. Yeah, that was a great panel.
Sisko with his relationship with Locutus, like that's
the callback to Barclay earlier in the issue is quite wonderful.
Oh yeah, a couple pages.
So I wonder if that's not. I mean, using Chekhov's gun, I wonder whether that's not going to play more into how that develops, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't think of it as a tease in that regard. Oh, I think you're right. Oh no, Sisko's.
I mean, it might be just a way to explain what's happening to us, but that could be a cool tease. Yeah.
Oh, for me, I
like this issue. It was great.
Yeah, it's just a bit of fun here.
Oh, I would love to see this in any season of Deep Space Nine.
All right. Well, we have 3 good issues here. This might have been our most satisfying 3 issues.
Oh, I like these. They're these are good fun. Good art. Good pacing.
Well,
yeah.
Yep. Yep. Well, Dave's gonna get his good boy for a P.
Indeed.
So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Contact us at locutorsoftrek@gmail.com and find our audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts.
Indeed.
I guess that leaves us with only one thing left to say.
End transmission.